So what's the secret to becoming a Roblox billionaire?
Well, it's actually quite simple. First, you gotta...
Yeah, right. No one can make that much money from a stupid Lego game.
Well, my friend, you're dead wrong. That's just one of the few who turned their love for Roblox into billions of Robux, the largest games on the planet, real historical moments, and more. But to find out how they actually did this, we're gonna investigate them one by one.
I was getting so really burnt out by the end of it because
Find their secrets, how do you get ideas,
from my dreams,
and dive into their full stories to finally answer the question, how to become a Roblox billionaire.
Yo, CubeINC, how are you?
I'm doing well. Manib, man himself.
Yeah, I'm doing good also.
Well, let's get right into it. So, how do you make your money?
I make my money from Roblox games. My most popular game is Catalog Avatar Creator, and how I earn from that is I get a commission from each time somebody buys an item inside of my game.
With 2 billion visits and hordes of active players, it quickly rose to the second most earning game out of the billions of Roblox games out there.
I still can't comprehend it.
But now I have even more questions. How can a game so empty attract so many players? What makes them spend so much money on it? And what led to its creation? He must have known something that no one else did, and I want to find that out. So let's start off with the early times. Starting as an average player, how'd you get into making Roblox games?
So I saw that each game was made by like another player on the platform. So that kind of inspired me to make my own game because I had this ambition to like create a front page game one day and become popular. So that's what got me started into making games. I actually started learning scripting when I was 10 and a half or 11 years old.
The beauty of this is that working hard at a young age already puts you ahead of everyone else. So imagine what he could accomplish while still being a kid. But starting as a child came with some inevitable problems.
I was very young back then and there's a lot of things that I didn't know how to do. The main challenges are probably like trying to learn scripting. Every now and then there are bugs that come up that sort of just crash you down. I think a few bugs have made me quit working on games completely because of how frustrating they were.
Giving him a bad first impression of making Roblox games.
And you know, you have a rough time fixing them.
So to take his mind off of this hot mess, he looked back at the games that inspired him, which gave him an idea.
Pretty much all of my first games were me trying to remake all the popular games. I remember trying to remake Murder Mystery on my own.
Which may seem dishonest, cheap, and lazy. But it's all for a good cause though.
Yeah, I was just pretty much trying to remake it so that I can gain experience on my own, game systems.
Giving him the knowledge he needed to make his first proper game.
So my first game that I made was called Laser Quest. It's basically a shooter game where you're on a team and you have to fight the other team to achieve victory and be the last team standing.
A perfect way to learn how to develop while making friends.
And it probably got a few hundred or maybe 1,000 visits in total now.
Never mind. The harsh truth was, Manib was a small fish in a massive sea. And with the big fish getting award after award, praise after praise, what makes Manib any special? But even when no one noticed your work, what pushed you to keep going?
The main thing that pushed me was my friends that were playing it with me. We had a lot of fun times testing and playing the game and battling each other inside of Laser Quest. And yeah, that inspired me to keep working on it and add new maps and new skins.
So from there, how would you approach making Roblox games? Was there a strategy or a secret?
I think the main thing to get a successful game is to put yourself in the perspective of the player. If you wouldn't be having fun playing your own game, then the chances are somebody else probably wouldn't be too. And make sure that the overall feeling of the game is also something super nice and easy to use and fun to play. That's what's going to make people stay in your game and also join back if they had fun playing it.
As time marched on, the very friends who kept him going
The main thing that pushed me was my friends that were playing it with me.
vanished.
Most of them have stopped playing Roblox, so I kind of lost, contact with them because they just grew up away from the platform.
Imagine that. The very thing that brought you and your friends together lost its charm, completely demotivating you from doing anything. And to add more salt to the wound,
Me as a popular game developer now, that's not something that I was always. I started off somewhere as well, and in fact, I've actually had a lot of failed game releases, dozens of games that I've released that have flopped. So yeah, you gotta keep trying and trying again.
I think you've all heard the saying, once you're at rock bottom, the only way you can go is up. That's if you find the right time to strike.
Okay, so story games were actually quite a big trend back in 2019. They were super popular. There were games like Camping and Airplane Story.
For context, these games basically throw you in the middle of a story, and your goal is to beat some sort of villain.
Which had a lot of popularity out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's free real estate. Manib saw potential. Story games were a cheap and guaranteed way to get popular, much more than last time. But that's the problem. They can only be played so many times before players finish the entire story. They would then beg for more and more and more, stressing out the owner. Even popular story game devs have a history of burning out.
So that inspired me to make my own story game. My first story game that I made was Vacation Story, and that was in fact my first game that actually blew up and got me out there as like a developer.
Let's go. But what made players notice your game in particular? Surely there must have been thousands of story games.
Yeah, so as far as the storyline goes, I try and make my story games have a lot of different things, a lot of different scenes that you can play through as a player. There was another game called Airplane Story, which was a popular one. But in that story game, you're just stuck on the plane for the whole duration.
Yeah, this is fun.
Which is why in my Vacation Story game, you start off in the plane, but then you end up crashing onto an island. Then you have to go through survival on the island.
And just like any businessman would, Manib made a bunch of game passes to help you live and reach the end of the story, which most eventually did. Yay.
And because it was my first game that succeeded, I went on to make more and more story games, such as Daycare and Daycare 2.
I mean, I did say it was stressful, but maybe he can handle it? And eventually, players finished that one too, which led to an endless cycle. Basically, Manib found a game style players loved and made the best possible version of it by combining many popular game modes. You gotta steal like an artist, but the main thing keeping his games afloat is the players trying to make lore out of it, like coming up with game theories about the storyline.
Yesterday, a daycare has been attacked by a big monster. Reports say the child had managed to escape.
That's why I made a lot of story games.
Yeah, a lot.
When I first started creating games, I've been working on story games. But then when I was making Daycare 2, I was getting so really burnt out by the end of it because I wasn't really doing it for fun anymore. It's just because I was kind of forcing myself to make a new story game because, a lot of people were, asking for Daycare 2.
So from there, how do you bounce back into being motivated again?
What I did was I took a break from that. I started working on other games like Mega Hide and Seek and Catalog Avatar Creator. It was like a new avenue for me.
And even though it was a massive risk for him,
it was something completely different and I had so much fun making it. I put a lot of effort and passion and love into it. If you're going to make a game, work on a game that you have passion for. Work on something that you'd have fun making, because otherwise you're just going to burn yourself out and probably end up not touching game development again.
So, following his own advice and using his raw knowledge, he began to work on his next big project, Catalog Avatar Creator. Not for fame or money, but for a reason he genuinely cared about, and a pretty serious one at that.
When you're shopping on the marketplace, you can't equip multiple items at the same time, and you also can't see how the character will feel when you're actually playing a game and walking around with it.
Yeah, that is so annoying. For context, Roblox always had this problem where some items in the avatar shop look good on display, but once you actually wear it, you basically got scammed. And what's worse is that once you spend your money, there's no shot of getting it back.
I started looking for alternative avatar editor games that I could use, and all of them were kind of, finicky or like not as great to use. So I decided to make my own version, which was super simple and easy to use. And that's how Catalog Avatar Creator was born. And yeah, overall, the experience of creating an avatar in my game is much more easier than on the Roblox website.
Unlike in that, you can try any outfit for free in-game to see if you like it, then buy it as your official avatar.
I think the main thing is that it combats the problems that people have with Roblox's avatar editor.
Since this game solves a common issue, players had no choice but to play. In just a matter of weeks, he already gained a few thousand players. But despite that, the game lacked any substance. It only existed as an avatar editor. There was no real bond between players, which is never good for any game.
And I think the popularity of my game also boosted after I released Community Outfits, which is like a public catalog of outfits that are pre-made for you. So if you search up for something, it'll literally give you hundreds of outfits that you're looking for in a second. People can find an outfit they want pretty much instantly without doing any work to create it.
Yeah, that'll save so much time and money. Not only did this strengthen the community, players finally had the chance to show their creations to the world. And I mean millions upon millions of people. He didn't want to hog the fame for himself anyways.
That was the feature that sort of carried my game from like 10k players to where it is now, like 40k.
Let's go, man.
It's providing like a new solution for avatar editing, which is what made it really, really popular.
And you bet money rolled in, more than ever.
I get a commission from each time somebody buys an item inside of my game.
Although anyone else would obsess over that, Manib had other priorities.
There are definitely more problems out there that can be solved by users creating games. To be fair, there was the issue of people trying to donate to each other, which has been solved with his game, Please Donate. I made another game called Friend Checker, which solves the issue of you, managing your friends list, I guess.
Manib finally found his true passion, making millions by using his games to help other players.
It means the world to me, honestly.
Where do you see this in 5 years?
Definitely, I will still be on the platform. The Roblox community is very supportive, and having a fan base for my game who's always so nice to you, it just sort of motivates you a lot. And yeah, the support I've received from the community is overwhelming.
And the winner is, for Best Use of Fashion, Catalog Avatar Creator!
Hey everyone, my name's Manib and I'm so honored to receive the award for Best.
So Manib, following all the success, what's one piece of advice you'd give to the viewers right now?
If you have a failure, see it as a stepping stone, because from each of my failed games, I learned a lot of scripting and modeling experience, and that experience helped me to work on my future games. And yeah, it gives you the potential to eventually one day reach there and achieve your goals.
Amen. While Manib's advice is definitely helpful, it doesn't fully answer our main question. To truly understand the truth of success, we can't look at this from just one side. Well, Manib, thank you for coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
But before we part ways, I need to know one last thing. Should the viewers subscribe to the channel?
Yeah, everyone watching the video right now, be sure to smash the subscribe button for more awesome content like this.
That's right, you guys heard him. We're trying to hit 1 million subs this year, and I have some awesome content planned. So, subscribe. Now, Manib might have been impressive, but then again, he's not the only brilliant billionaire to learn from. The more, the better. Hey, Chunch Bunch, how you doing? I've heard a lot about you, so let's just get into it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, how do you make your money?
I make my money through Roblox games, and Blade Ball is definitely the biggest thing I've created.
In a mere 60 days, Blade Ball became the fastest game to hit 1 billion visits, a milestone that you can only dream of. And although this sounds like one, in reality, it has its own set of nightmares.
The amount of passionate hate for Blade Ball is unparalleled.
Yeah, since the game came out of literally nowhere, players were so quick to hate.
Are pay-to-win games ruining Roblox? Recently, this discussion popped up again thanks to a little game called Blade Ball.
Including me. And because it happened so fast, the owner never had a chance to share his side. But that changes right now. We could learn a thing or two from his story, so we gotta separate the art from the artist. Alright, so what's the backstory behind your life-changing project?
It was kind of a jumbly story, but basically I was wondering why there weren't any big air hockey or pong games on Roblox. That seemed really fun, so I did some research and stumbled upon heat-seeking ball games.
For context, heat-seeking ball games are basically ping pong, but with a moving ball of death.
That mechanic was captivating. So my best friend Vido and I wanted to put our own spin on it and bring it to Roblox.
The only problem was, Chunch had no idea how to start. There weren't many heat-seeking ball games on Roblox to take inspiration from, so he had to make the most of what he had.
I had to hone a lot of my skills because I'm a jack of all trades, master of none developer.
Which is basically learning as many skills as humanly possible.
And Blade Ball started with just me and Vido, with him doing most of the scripting and me doing everything else. Honestly, making Blade Ball was really fun, so it was no problem to hone my skills. It took us a little over a year of on and off development, but a majority of the game was grinded out over one summer with us working all day.
Wow, you guys sacrificed your summer break for that. And thus, Blade Ball was born. The aim of the game was simple. Dodge a moving ball and deflect it to your enemies. But the ball speeds up every second until one victor remains. Chunch and Vido did it. It was day 1 when the game opened, day 2 when Chunch already grinded his first update, day 9 when the game hit 1,000 players, and day 23 when the group hit 1 million members, which they doubled in 4 days. But strangely enough, Chunch got less and less active as the game got bigger and bigger. Was he ungrateful? Did he not care about his fans or team? What's the truth behind all this?
Well, back then, it was always fun to go into Blade Ball servers and talk with the community and occasionally give out unobtainable swords. When Blade Ball was at 50 players, everyone knew each other and it was a great time. Like putting all the players in one server and hosting events. But nowadays, it's hard to connect with individual people since the community is so big now.
And how did it get so big so fast? Was it luck or skill on your end?
We executed Blade Ball quite nicely, but TikTok caught wind of it and played a big role. I guess it was easy to fit full 1v1s into quick and cool videos, so it was definitely a combination of luck and skill. It's all about being prepared for future opportunities.
Despite the negativity towards this game, this guy so far seems legit. He wanted to bring something fresh to Roblox, learned everything he could to do it, and eventually made it work with the help of his best friend. And despite his hard work, he wanted him to have all the credit. But because of the game's instant rise and some very bad timing,
I can write pages and pages about harmful misconceptions towards me, but the most common one is, you copied deflect.
Well, that sounds pretty bad. It's an eerily similar game to Blade Ball, but knowing your backstory, it's probably not true.
No. Deflect actually referenced a lot of things from our game after we released, and people thought we copied them. Pro servers, double jumping, crates, and more I can't remember. Generally, the things said about us are greatly exaggerated or blatantly untrue.
But what gave you the strength to still update the game? What's your advice for anyone putting up with hate, especially undeserved hate?
The best way to go is to never reply. Nobody likes to talk to a wall. Too bad I'm a high T Sigma and the haters won't get to me. But don't be mistaken, I also get a lot of funny and kind messages that make my day. Even though I can't reply to all of them, I find comfort knowing that I can rely on people, and I can be relied on, like my friends and my team. Besides, tackling projects is extremely difficult alone.
Now, honestly, I don't know you that well or even what you sound like, but I have a lot more respect for you, and I'll be honored if you can share to everyone your main piece of advice when it comes to being successful.
I know this is what every How to Become Successful guide says, but keep trying and improving yourself, and never underestimate yourself. Hardworking stupidity beats lazy brilliance.
I've never looked at it that way.
And hey, if you don't have time 'cause of school, spend your summers learning skills you find interesting and executing them. Roblox games make a lot more money than people think, so that's a fun one to start with.
Well, thank you, Trunch Bunch, for sharing your story. I hope we can speak again someday, but now we gotta move on to our next Roblox billionaire. There's still a lot more to uncover.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, so I'm Tencel and I'm the owner of Slap Battles on Roblox, which has... Okay, I don't know if I should brag about the stats of the game, but I live off my game Slap Battles.
Since he's such a humble guy, I'm gonna brag for him. With over 2 billion visits, Slap Battles easily became a top-earning Roblox game, supporting Tencel and his family.
But back then I had no desire to create stuff on the platform or develop. But back then I didn't really want to develop games, I just wanted to play them.
Which kinda struck me as odd. How did a kid who never cared about creating end up as, you know, a superstar? But most importantly, how could his story finally answer our question?
I was an average player all the way up until 2021.
Ooh, what changed there?
I was going to a programming class, and I thought it was like you'd be taught how to program in the programming class. Then I realized everyone in my class already knew how to program, and I was like, oh, what the hell?
Which must have been embarrassing.
So I talked to one of the people in the class, and they were apparently really good at Roblox programming, and I knew what Roblox was at that point. I got into learning how to code in Lua.
Which is the scripting language Roblox uses to make every single game a reality.
I was inspired by my classmate Alex OP1000. He inspired me to start making games and taught me a bit about coding as well.
With a newfound love for coding, Tencel immediately got to work.
As I said, I played a lot of games before I started to develop, so I wanted to make games that were like on the same scale as the ones I was playing, and these games had big development teams behind them often. I was imagining like a massive whole game, and I wanted to do it all by myself with next to no experience. I thought I could just make something in like a month or two that was on the same size. But I did not even get close to finishing, and it was also very, very bad in comparison because I was so inexperienced.
You're not good enough. This story now. You have nothing to offer.
Fumbling your first move is never a fun experience, but at the very least...
Although I did learn a lot from it, so I wouldn't say it was a waste of time. Just keep trying until you improve and make sure not to aim too high with your ambitions.
Which is pretty counterintuitive, but considering his past, he had to do something different for his next game. So, what's plan B?
In the game, you can go into the arena, and then you have this big glove, you slap people. Every time you slap someone, you gain 1 slap, And the goal is to knock people off the island.
The simplest idea possible.
And when you gain these slaps, you can use them to basically unlock better gloves that deal more knockback and have unique abilities.
And rather than spending months perfecting the game,
it was really horribly coded behind the scenes because I was practically learning how to do stuff while doing it. In fact, the animation that you see when you slap is a test animation because I wanted to see if like my script would work. So I just made something in like 10 seconds to see would this theoretically work, and it did, and I just never changed it. But I guess it goes to show, don't overthink the process.
So after a hard week of work, he was confident enough to share slap battles to the world. Despite the imperfections, he still believed in it. But we can only hope that players will too.
In the beginning, it didn't even maintain a stable player base. It had maybe 1 or 2 servers.
I guess all hope is lost.
And that's when my friend AlexOP1000 he joined and he bought one of those game passes.
W friend. And rather than spending the money on himself,
I would sponsor the game using the Robux I made, and then I would kind of get maybe 1 full server, and then I would use that Robux if I made anything to sponsor it again, kind of doing a cycle until I had maybe 70 players, and then it kind of self-sustained. And yeah, and the first people that I had playing the game, I would give people who joined the game like a lot of slaps immediately so that they can immediately use some really good gloves. And I would also play my own game and make sure that they were having fun playing it.
But after his friend's gracious gift, another friend stepped in, and for the wrong reasons.
I had like a staff member when Slap Battles was more new, got really controversial and all the bad stuff really, so we had to kind of kick them from the server and get rid of them and all that.
Oh, and does that frighten you?
I'm not really worried about losing friends if I know them enough and I know that they're good people.
Following the sudden betrayal, Ten made it his mission to show as much love to the community as he can, if he ever gets the chance to. So, after getting a couple dozen players, thanks to your friend, what was the next step to bringing your game to its full potential?
So I didn't really have a plan, I just kind of added what I thought was fun, because at the end of the day I didn't really do it because I thought I would get any success from it. I just found it fun to kind of see people play what I made and interact with all the stuff I created, and then adding more stuff and see their reaction to it. It was like a game to do in itself.
As you said, don't overthink the process. But to truly deliver on this goal, the updates had to be remarkable.
I think one of the funniest updates I made was adding a glove called Mega Rock.
An OP glove that insta-kills anyone who touches it. Which does sound random and dumb, but it's actually very important to Ten's goal.
So I was gonna make it something stupid, like you have to sit in this rock for 1 hour straight and do nothing to get this glove.
That's just torture.
And then my friend was like, nah, do 10 hours. And I was like, okay. just because I thought it was funny, really.
And while this may seem like an absolutely horrible idea that would make players hate him,
didn't even complain really because it wasn't mandatory to get. It was just something you could get. And at the end of the day, if something is really rare, it automatically makes it really valuable. And then when it's really valuable, people want to do much more to get it. It's one of the most iconic gloves in the game, even though you have to sit in a rock for 10 hours to get it.
Ten realized something. Not only did this make players play longer, a very important thing for its growth, but these funny, rare items oddly formed a connection between him and the players. So he did not hesitate to create more and more of these rare, random gloves. Not only did players willingly spend so much time and money for them, but the glove's abilities made for some surreal gameplay.
You can get caught off guard by something really jarring and it'll be really funny as a result. Like, for instance, if you get hit by a bus out of nowhere.
And thanks to the game's imperfections, they were laughing, having fun, making friends. Ten's vision was coming to life. But to strengthen his bond even more, he added theme songs to each glove, like the one you're hearing right now. Every time you fight with a glove, it plays a funny little song to make the game even more immersive. And oh boy, did players vibe with it. But as any game grows, the owner always falls in an inescapable trap.
It's hard to connect with individual people since the community is so big now.
I don't think he was aware of this problem, but a small update he made might have saved him.
I had a chair in the lobby and I would literally just sit there and talk to people who joined, maybe walk around as well. I just wanted to attract players because the money I was making, quote unquote, was so insignificant, didn't really matter. It was just kind of fun. I just invested literally everything I made. I put back into ads, everything.
And while it may seem lazy that he's still doing this, it's all part of his plan. Well, anti-plan, to nurture his game to the max. Now, with a decent player base, he had the chance to bond with even more people.
I've hosted events where, for instance, I'd make like a server with 100 people.
Where he would basically give out rare, unobtainable badges to each of the 100 players. A nice little gift for a small community.
Actually, I think it was 200 people, and I was live streaming it, and it got filled up, and it was pretty fun.
Bruh. And although he didn't have to, and could have spent that time grinding out updates,
I mean, they're just kind of like a little cherry on top, to be honest. People get too caught up in getting optimal retention, optimal session time, and this and that. They'll probably forget about the most important thing, which is to have an actually fun game. Don't overthink the process.
Although progress was being made towards this goal, the main issue was the game itself still felt flat. There wasn't much depth other than slapping people and slapping people and slapping people. Games with this problem have a history of dying out. But with the experience he gained from bonding with his fans, 10 might have found a solution to spice things up. You see, every glove in the game was always related to a meme that's light-hearted, which he knew his fans loved. But the next update would be the polar opposite.
I just tried to make some really absurd stuff. Like there's this guy called Bob, which is like a black blob, like a god sealed away and all that stuff, so yeah.
An evil deity who committed horrible crimes like genocide and cannibalism, and serves as a villain for anyone who steps foot in the game. On paper, this seems like a disturbing idea that would turn players away, because it's the last thing you'd expect. But 10 knew his players well enough to take that risk.
I think it makes it more interesting and fun to play and witness.
Players didn't like it. They loved it. The risk was worth it. Thanks to this mischievous figure, waves of fan art was made, as well as pages and pages of lore behind the character. This wasn't just a PvP game anymore, it was its own universe. Player counts rose, and the community was much more vibrant, which gave 10 a wave of inspiration. So after that update, what was the next move to achieve your full potential once and for all?
To listen to the community and apply whatever they kind of want to see if it improves what they think about the game and makes them want to keep playing, you know, so nurturing your community.
And now, with this massive responsibility, 10 made a dedicated promise to his loving fans.
I gotta update every week, so that's what I gotta do, and that's what I'm doing.
And so, that's what he did, forcing himself to crank out as many updates as humanly possible. New game modes, new characters like Rob, apparently Bob's mortal enemy, and gloves with abilities that no man has ever thought of. And all of that, week after week after week for the entire year. But as slap battles got bigger, so did 10's fear of letting his fans down.
I gotta update every week, so that's what I gotta do, and that's what I'm doing. So, I mean, that's some pressure. I kind of have to update every week at this point.
And it didn't help that they had higher expectations for the game. So, he needed a second way of cranking out updates, and fast. Other than your fans, how else did you find ideas?
From my dreams.
Bro, how is this even possible?
There's this thing called the plate that goes around the island. It's like a transportation system, and I came up with it because I was dreaming that I was in like a fan game of Slap Battles, like a ripoff, and they had like a bunch of stuff all over the place. It was actually a train in my dream. I did a very similar thing as a result of waking up and being like, damn, that's really cool. I wish I should have that in my game.
That is actually brilliant. His bond with the game is so strong that he can work on it in his sleep. But at the height of it all, a tiny mistake he made eventually caught up to him.
I was still the only developer of Slap Battles at the time, but it had gotten really big.
He was so focused on bonding with fans that he forgot to spend time building a team from the ground up. But that wasn't even the worst part.
So I just didn't have time to do both school and work on Slap Battles at the same time. I mean, if I don't update every week, the fans will probably be very disappointed.
I forgot, you were still a kid at the time.
Yeah, really stressful because there was a lot of homework as well, and then also a lot of developing, so I didn't have any free time at that point.
Players were angrily begging for the next updates, but school got in the way of his promise. 10's game was printing money, so he could drop out. But then again, school is where he found his passion, learned how to code, and met his first friend. But it also prevented him from pushing the game even further and finding a team. But then again, he was heading off to college, which is very important for your future and career, and he doesn't have time to do both.
I just wanted to attract players. At the end of the day, I didn't really do it because I thought I would get any success from it. I gotta update every week, so that's what I gotta do, and that's what I'm doing. So, I mean, that's some pressure. I kind of have to update every week at this point. I mean, if I don't update every week, the fans will probably be very disappointed. Don't overthink the process.
So, he didn't overthink. He followed his heart.
So I think, if I remember correctly, I dropped out about at the end of 2022.
Wow, that is a serious commitment.
I succumb to the pressure and I update every week, but I don't really mind doing it, to be honest.
And with school completely out of his life, he completely relied on his game and players to financially support him, meaning he couldn't mess this up, literally. However,
every now and then I'll add the update that isn't very well received and people get upset, but you know, I try to avoid it, so it's pretty unavoidable in general though.
And although it made him pretty sad, which is perfectly okay, he saw it as a stepping stone, like a wise man once said.
Constructive criticism is when you give feedback that can actually help improve the game. Like, you could do this better, or you could do this better, while destructive would be more like, your game sucks.
And with this mindset, he hired fans as testers for the game.
For instance, if I'm making a new glove and I'm testing it with the testers, then they could either be like, this glove is bad or boring or something, or they'll give a constructive feedback like, you could improve this glove by doing this or that, and then I'll do it. They'd be adding a new feature to the glove or making it more in depth.
With an honest and loyal team to rely on, he was finally in the right headspace to push his game to its real full potential. Even with all these testers, these upcoming updates seem so much harder to make than any of your previous. How'd you motivate yourself to put that much work?
It's my job at this point. As I said, I dropped out of school, so this is kind of what I do now. I don't really need motivation to work on it. It's fun, so, you know, I'm having fun doing it.
So, throughout the year of 2023, with all the knowledge and passion he gained, and while keeping his weekly promise, he poured his soul into 2 massive updates as a token of appreciation for his loving fans. But will they accept it?
Number 1 would probably be the boss fight, which was a big boss fight.
A perfect way to combine random intense gameplay while continuing Bob's lore, which fans always wanted. And as he streamed the update to all his fans, everything felt perfect.
Please sit down!
That had a lot of hype, and we got over 70,000 players in that update.
That is unreal.
The next update would be Null Zone, which is it's like a dungeon kind of thing, a purple dungeon, and they have to kind of navigate through it, and if they make it to the end, they get a unique glove.
So mad. Calm down, bro. I'm very frightened right now.
Welp, you made it.
But without Alex, I don't know, because since he kind of contributed to the first sponsorship, I don't know if I would have gotten any players in the first place to even nurture if it wasn't for him. Definitely did help a lot.
But I think we're forgetting the main point of all this. 2 billion visits. That is no joke.
It was a happy accident. I found it fun to develop. Initially, I didn't have any goals or anything like that. And then eventually, I just kind of slowly got success without even really realizing. I was like, oh.
And what's your main piece of advice for getting that success?
If you have a failure, see it as a stepping stone because
Hardworking stupidity beats lazy brilliance.
It can never really be a bad choice to start learning how to develop on Roblox. If you keep trying, you'll eventually get it. And if you don't, then you'll end up with a very valuable set of skills.
So, out of everything we learned, what truly is the secret to becoming a Roblox billionaire? Well, it's actually none of this. But we do have an answer. You see, all these billionaires had something special to share to the world. A helpful tool, a fun little game mode, a true connection with fans, and they did everything in their power to fulfill that. Burning out, sacrificing summer, or even quitting school. Which you shouldn't, by the way. We all have something special to offer in our own unique way. It's just a matter of whether we want to dig deep enough in our hearts and find it. Meaning, there's definitely more billionaires out there with amazing stories to tell. And that could be you one day. So if we somehow get 200k likes, I'll definitely do a part 2 of them. But for now, that's a wrap.